Welcome back to the Average Angler's Shed, guys. Today's video is going to be about tying spade end hooks with a matchman hook tie. I'm just going to quickly do one in front of you in the camera while I'm speaking, just to show you how quickly you can do these. So the reason a lot of people have put videos about these on YouTube, and I was wondering whether I should bother or not, but I feel like they've missed a few key important points. So I'm going to go run you through what the key important points are. But I'm just going to show you this. That is how quickly you can tie a nice hook, a nice spade end hook, no problem at all. Okay, you'll have no bother whatsoever tying them at that sort of speed and getting them nice and tidy when you get proficient at it. If you've never used one before, a better scissors would be good. These are just rubbish ones out of my toolbox. So there you are. That does need to be slid up a little bit more. So very quickly, I've just tied that in front of you. Big beefy line, big beefy hook. It's all to aid visibility for you guys. It's not what I would normally be tying. Normally, well, you can go right down to 22s with these if you really want to go that small. Nowadays, the smallest I tie is probably a 20, and that's not a true 20 anymore. A lot of these modern hooks are not as small as they used to be. So that was obviously very fast, and anybody who hasn't done this before has learned nothing. But we'll go through what I've just done again slowly now, and some key pointers as to what I think are important factors. Good for you guys to see. So the line needs to be kept tight throughout the whole process. Okay, that's the first thing to note. And now the second thing to note that is important and gets overlooked quite often, I feel, is the position of the hook in the hook tyer. Now I've got the shank of the hook coming out of the hook tyer right in the middle of the vice part of the hook tyer, and also ever so slightly leaning backwards, if that makes sense. So if this is vertical, then the hook shank, you can see it's just leaning that way a little bit. You can see here, just leaning backwards. Now that is important because it just helps you when you're doing the wraps, and not when you're wrapping the line around the shank, because as you spin, it just keeps the shank out of the way. Right guys, I've slightly repositioned the camera for this next phase because I feel like you get a better view from this angle. I've pratted about and this seems to be the case. So just to recap, hook is in the shank, hook is in the middle, so that the shank is coming out the middle of the vice, as we said a second ago. It's leaning back slightly off the vertical. It's all nicely tightly clamped in, and this metal part isn't up, it's down. Okay, so then we can place that to the left hand side of the line, wrap the line around the bottom pin and back up, keeping everything tight. So my right hand is pulling against the spool, which is trapped, and my left hand is keeping the tension in the tag end. I now want to rotate it clockwise once, but as I'm doing so, I want the tag end in my left hand to go between the point of the hook and the shank of the hook, or the spade if you like, and then rotate once. And what you see happens is it traps the line against the shank of the hook now. So now we can start winding the line up the shank. So, but before we do, I just want to make a few more points. It must be tight. We must be keeping some tension in this right hand, not super tight, but not slack. We must be keeping some tension in this left hand. If we wrap it on too tight, we'll damage the line when we try to tighten the knot up. If we wrap it on too loose, the knot will come undone. So it's a case of having a couple of goes at it until you get the right feel for it. The other key points are that because we've now got that, the reason that we leaned the hook back while I've banged on about having this hook leaning back slightly is because that will ensure that the line comes out the front of the hook in the right place. If you've ever used one of these and you keep finding that you've got the line coming out the back of the eye, behind the spade, sorry, and then you have to keep pulling it around to the front of the spade and you're worried that you're damaging it and whatever, that's because you're not doing what I'm about to show you, which is keep the, as I've already told you, have the shank leaning back, but then when you're rotating this device, as we're rotating it now, you keep it pointing at the spool. all the time, so that the line that's coming from the spool forms a straight line with you. I'm going to try and do something now which is probably going to be a disaster. This line here carries on straight down. You've not got this, and that will ensure that you're, because you can see now, get the angle on it, but the line is coming out the front of the bend because it's leaning back. No matter which way you rotate it, it's leaning back, so it comes out the front as you're keeping it tight. That's the secret. And get your tag end when you've done enough wraps. Anything more than 5 is enough. Put it through the gap in the front pin. Keep everything tight. This left hand, push that pin down, and just slowly pull the device away from the spool, and it will pull all the knot up tight. Then you can release the hook. And what I like to do is just pull the knot again, top and bottom, just to make sure it's really tight on the shank. And sometimes if the knot is not quite up against the shank, I'll pull it up towards the shank. Sorry, the spade, not the shank. Just like that. Now I'm hoping I can get the camera to focus on this. We'll go before I nut the thing. There we are. So this is my tag end. He gets cut off. And you can see, without any sort of extra manipulation, that the line is coming straight out the front of the spade, exactly how you want it to. Well, you would be able to see if my camera would stay focused on it for more than a millisecond. Try one more time. Let's just try a bit further away, maybe it will do that. There we are. See, just there. It's really obvious because it's thick line. That's what you're looking for. There'll be people out there telling you, oh, you must do 7.346 turns or whatever stupid number they've got in their head. It's all in their head. You know, I would imagine 3 turns is probably enough, but go for at least 5. Get as many on there as you can, really, but more the merrier. So I'm hoping that helps. I mean, there's a lot of rambling going on in there, and I'm hoping that you can understand what I'm talking about. The key points are really important. You know, these are things I've watched all these other people's videos, and they're all telling you really good things. So go and watch their videos, because they might tell you things that I've missed. But I haven't seen one that tells you about having that hook point leaning, that hook shank leaning back off the vertical. That's really important. It just makes life so much easier, because what you don't want, if I can demonstrate what you don't want, so by pulling it around the wrong way, is that. Because what happens is it sort of catches on the back of the, as you're playing a fish, it's catching on the spade. Spade's rubbing the line. Also, it changes the angle between the hook point and the, you know, we all know that knotless knots are great for fish hole, you know, for hooking fish, etc. And they come out the front. They create, now it's out the front again, they create that nice shape.